Hello again. This is the portion where I said I'd answer your questions and give you guys shout outs. We'll definitely do that. And I'll answer your questions. I kind of briefly read over them. They're some pretty good questions there, guys. You're impressive. First question is from Viviana. So shout out to Viviana. God, weak. And her question was, what is the change in art between the Middle Ages and the Renaissance? Great question. And I think an example would play out pretty well. If I was a middle-aged artist, and I am middle-aged, but I mean from the Middle Ages, this is what I think a dog would look like. A dog, okay? This is like middle-age artwork, okay? Now, if I was to do a Renaissance representation of a dog, let me show you what that would look like. Let me get it for you. Look at this. How's that? That's pretty good artwork, eh? Look, it looks lifelike, doesn't it? That's a dog. It's a Renaissance dog. There we go. Get that dog away from me. Okay, so there we go. Next questions is from Giscali Figueroa. How you doing, Giscali? So glad for your questions. She has two questions. How did Europe benefit so much from the Renaissance? And boy, that's a huge question there, and I'll give you a brief answer for a huge question. The Renaissance benefited so much because it became extremely wealthy and powerful as a result of the Renaissance. From our review, a lot of things figured into that for that to be created, but the Renaissance helps Europe go into a position of domination, basically, when it looks at the rest of the earth. It's able to dominate different regions all over the world. It becomes more technologically advanced. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of why Europe benefited so much from that. And her next question was it really true that the only wealthy people in Europe experienced the Renaissance? And it's true. It had a trickle-down theory where some people probably had greater lifespans. But in general, if you were poor and you were a peasant, you weren't like, things are different today. It's the Renaissance. That didn't even figure into it. If you were really wealthy, then you did benefit from that. And, that's kind of true in history. The really wealthy people, they get the good stuff. And us on the lower end, we don't get so much. You get some stuff, but not enough for us, do we? Okay, thank you for those questions. Next question comes from Ismael. Shout out for Ismael. Yeah! Hey! There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Which ancient civilization was comprised of city-states? They were all city-states, these ancient civilizations, because they weren't organized enough to have big nations and so forth. But when we talk about city-states, classically we're talking about the Greek polis. And those are the first city-states we kind of studied. And they're like little independent nations. Just like, think about it, if we had city-states these days, and Phoenix would be a city-state. And then you'd have a smaller city-state of Tucson, and even a smaller city-state of Flagstaff within Arizona itself. Kind of like that. And the oldest surviving polytheistic religion, let me think, Hinduism. It's the oldest one. It goes back about 5,000 years. Great questions again. Next question comes from Jasmine. Yeah, Jasmine. She wants to ask, why are they important, religions? Religions are important. I kind of talked about this in the review thing we did. Religions kind of make sense to people because as they live life, they find things confusing. And people don't like confusing things. We as humans do not like it when, boy, that doesn't make sense. What's going on with that? So we come up with certain systems where we try to explain the unexplainable. It doesn't provide all the answers, but I think that's kind of the nutshell of the genesis of religion. Just my opinion. All right, next question is from Stephanie. Stephanie, how you doing? It's was a Renaissance man called a universal man? In a lot of ways he was. Remember, the Renaissance man is somebody who's skilled in many, many things. He's a good dancer. He can write poetry. He's a good artist. He is skilled in martial arts. Something like that, where somebody's not on, they don't specialize in one thing, like, I'm a really good basketball player, but I can't do anything else. They're really good at a lot of different things. And that's kind of like a universal man. And it was something that was definitely highly sought after during the Renaissance and highly admired also. Good question, by the way. Annalicia, how you doing? What is credited for establishing and helping to maintain familial and social order in China? Smart girl. I would credit Confucianism with doing that. In the Asian world in general, keeping things in a harmonious balance is really well thought of. And people that create chaos and create disharmony are definitely shunned, if not gone after. So Confucius in his teachings, he always talks about harmony and proper relationships. So I would go with that. Good question. Very good question. Martin Favela. One of my favorite questions here. It says, what correctly describes the Byzantine Empire? Good question. Byzantine Empire, if I were to describe that, it is the eastern branch of the Roman Empire. It's the Roman Empire II. Remember, Rome in the West is kind of falling apart. It's coming on hard times. Money's drying up. They got too many wars going on. So there starts being a migration from Rome to, initially it's Constantinople, and that's their capital. And they're like, hey, there's a lot more money around here. There's kind of easier to defend. We got more armies here. Let's move back east. Let's move to the east. And that's what they do. So it is an extension and a continuation of the Roman Empire, but that's a very good question. I appreciate that. Next question is from Miles. Love that first name, Miles. What a great name. Miles, let's hear a shout out for Miles. Oh, man. What major contributions did China bring in terms of inventions? Spoke about that in the review. Oh, boy. How long is this tape? That's what it's like. Paper, moving type, gunpowder, porcelain, spices, just a ton of stuff. Math, science. The Chinese are incredibly proud of their society, and they have every right to be proud of their society and their culture. We're talking a history that goes back thousands and thousands of years, 5,000 years. That's the Chinese civilization, and their contributions occurred all during that period. So, they're justifiably proud of their legacy, and hats off to the Chinese, Next question, is from Cesar. Cesar asks, what coincided with the fall of Rome? Well, the rise of the Byzantine Empire definitely coincided with the fall of Rome. And we also have several other things. The rise of Christianity coincides with the fall of Rome, too. How did Greece and Rome influence the ideas of the Renaissance? They were the blueprint. When these people in the Renaissance when the Renaissance started in northern Italy, and later on it spreads throughout Europe, people would think, boy, the Greeks and the Romans, they were on it. They knew exactly what to do, what to study, ways to live their life. So I would say that the Greek and the Romans were like the blueprint for the Renaissance. They idealized the Romans and the Greeks, and they thought that those two civilizations represented a really high point in human development. Great question. Thank you so much. Next question is from Annalicia again. Doubleheader. In Japanese feudalism, I love this question. In Japanese feudalism, why were merchants at the bottom of the classes? That's a great question. I think a lot of it has to do with that in Japanese society, they put a lot of emphasis on honor, tradition, the martial arts too. So that's why to this day, that's why we still look up to samurai, and people know about samurai, and like they know about knights in European feudalism. So I think merchants were at the bottom of that. While merchants performed a necessary function in any society, I think that people had more admiration and thought better things about people that were samurais or knights because to be a merchant, you don't have to necessarily be a really brave person and willing to sacrifice yourself for a higher thing. And I think that's kind of it. But merchants don't they do a lot of important stuff too. They're actually the backbone of a lot of societies. But great question. Thanks again. All right, this question is from the one and only Kevin Perez. It says, why were merchants at the bottom of the pyramid? Deja vu, deja vu, deja vu. Next question is from Angel. What's up, Angel? In Japanese feudalism, what category did the Ronin fall under? Okay, the Ronin, I believe Ronin are samurai, and they are samurai that are not necessarily connected to a lord. So they would be like the free agent samurai. They're waiting to sign a contract with somebody. And a lot of times, these Ronin would not be aligned with a feudal lord. So they kind of form their own little society. And that's where we get the interest in the Ronin too. Because that's pretty interesting if you're a free agent way back then. Okay, Ismail. These questions are from day 2 of your review. It says 5 similarities and differences between Spartan and Athens. All similar. They were both in Greece. They both were skilled militarily. Difference on that was that Athens was really a preeminent naval power, while Sparta was the preeminent military land-based power. They were both vying to dominate the Greek peninsula. They had horrible wars when they fought against each other. In fact, one of their eventual wars, called the Peloponnesian War, ends up just diminishing the power of Greece to the point that it never recovers from, and we kind of exit the age of Greek domination. But, and I mentioned this earlier on one of the reviews, when Sparta and Athens worked together, boy, they were a power. And they took down the Persians, which were probably the most powerful empire on the face of the earth at the time. They took down the Persians and did away with them. And even though Alexander the Great did not come from Athens or Sparta, he has that Greek blood going through him. And he was definitely affected by not only Athens, he was a student of, let me think about it, Plato, I think. He was a student of Plato, and he definitely learned a lot of military martial skills from the whole Sparta thought of that. So, he's kind of a nice combination of both there. Good question. All right, next question comes from Stephanie again. What's one word to describe the Byzantine Empire? That's a good one. I would say part 2. That's 2 words. Second. Yeah, I go with second. It's like the second thing of Rome. We have the western part of Rome. Byzantine Empire is the second part of Rome. So, good one. Way to make me think. Next question is from Jasmine. What is the importance of vanishing point in art? Vanishing point in art is really important because if you looked on the review sheet, it said they had the picture of Da Vinci's Last Supper, and then you have Jesus at the center point right there. And all the way back, it's like you're looking into the painting because of the lines that Da Vinci created. And that's called vanishing point. It gives depth to a painting, and that's a very good get out of here. It's a very good artistic device. So good question, Jasmine. I got another question here from Angel. What are some of the other great Renaissance men besides the Ninja Turtles? I would go with Michelangelo, the guy in the back, on his back that painted the Sistine Chapel, and Da Vinci. You can never go wrong with Da Vinci. You talk about the Renaissance man, Michelangelo too. These guys were so skilled in a lot of different things. I'd go with Da Vinci, I'd go with Michelangelo, and then you'd be fine. Okay? Next question is from Justin. What's up, Justin? What is cultural diffusion? Great question. Probably will be on the final. Cultural diffusion is when two cultures come into contact And as a result of this contact, they learn things about each other. And through this contact and through this knowledge that is shared, they moderate or they change the way their society operates or their culture operates. And that's just smart. It's kind of inevitable. If you were in a society that would never change anything, no matter what they came in, even if it was a better idea, I don't think that society or culture would be too long around. It wouldn't work. You're always kind of trying to constantly improve when you're a culture or a civilization because that will ensure your survival. Next question again is from Viviana. Let's hear it from Viviana. Yeah! What are similarities and differences between Sparta and Athens? I think we covered that. How did Shakespeare impact the English language? He had a tremendous impact on the English language. And not so much because he developed new words and stuff, but he still has a lot of sayings that are in current use. You still study his plays. In fact, I'm going on a field trip second semester with Mr. Turley's class, and we're going to see one of Shakespeare's plays, Macbeth. So he's like the gold standard. He's up here, and people like studying his stuff. And if you want to Google something, Google Shakespeare's sayings that we still use these days, because there's a lot of them. Next question. What was the Columbian Exchange? The Columbian Exchange was an exchange between the Old World, which was Europe, and then the New World, which is the Americas. A lot of things were taken back and forth to places. I said in class, and I'll stand by this, that the Europe got the better part of the Columbian Exchange because, we got a lot of good things from the Americas, but the Americas, mainly they got disease from us, and that wasn't good, okay? So that's not a good thing. Here we go. Come here. Time out. Commercial time out. Come on. Right here. This is a commercial for my dog's favorite treats. She loves that stuff. Away with you. Columbian Exchange. Good question. That's a blank card. Next question comes from Tim. What's up, Tim? What is the Catholic Counter-Reformation? Counter-Reformation is really important because we know the Reformation with Luther, the Catholic Church splits in Europe, and as a result of that, we get Protestantism, which splits into a bunch of different religions, and then we have Catholicism. Well, the Catholics aren't just going to stand there and take it. They're going to clean up their act in terms of their church, make some reforms to clean up the way the Catholic Church conducts business. But they're not going to just sit there and be told, you're bad by the Protestants. So besides cleaning up their church itself, they also go on the aggressive. They defend their Catholic doctrine. Two of the more important things to remember about Catholic doctrine is that priests cannot be married. In the Protestant church, a pastor can be married. The Pope is the supreme person that is like God's representative on earth as far as the Catholic Church thinks about. There's no person like that in the Protestant faith. And I think the other part would be that priest, Pope, marriage. That originally, and I think it's still the same, that you get married once and you're married as far in the eyes of the Pope in the Catholic Church. It doesn't work that way in the Protestant Church. You can have multiple marriages, and a lot of people do. Okay, the question was, what is the Catholic Counter-Reformation? That's the Catholic Church's response to the Protestant Reformation through Martin Luther. Probably two of the main changes or features of the Catholic Reformation, Counter-Reformation, is that they maintain the primacy or the importance of the Pope. There is no likewise person in the Protestant faith. The Pope is considered God's representative on earth. Another thing that the Catholics did was they still stuck with the priest could not get married. In the Protestant faith, pastors can get married. The next one would be divorce. In the Catholic faith, you get married once, you're married. They don't look at multiple marriages as an option. In the Protestant faith, you can get married as many times as you want to, and a lot of people do. And the next thing I said would be part of the Counter-Reformation is the rise of the Jesuits. The Jesuits are almost like a action arm of the Catholic Church at that point. They establish universities, they're big on education, and they're also missionaries that go out and try to counter the advances made by the Protestants during the Protestant Reformation. That was an excellent question, Kevin. All right, next question is from Ubaldo. He's got 3 questions here. What caused the Catholic Counter-Reformation and what is it? Kind of went over that. And of course, what caused the Catholic Counter-Reformation was the Protestant Reformation. It was Martin Luther. The next one, what are the greatest achievements of the Roman Empire? Good question. Law, a system of law that the government's supposed to run on. The language of Latin. And the language, law, and architecture was important too, because the Romans were the first to use concrete in their buildings, vast public works projects. Rome, back in the ancient world, had a population of 1 million people, and that's just incredible because most cities probably topped out at like 40,000. If it was a large city, it'd be like 40,000. So they used cement, tremendous architectural accomplishments, aqueducts where they transported water hundreds of miles. Just incredible engineers, the Romans. And also their system of roads. Their roads united their huge empire and were used for hundreds of years after the Roman Empire ceased to be. So their roads, they were really good. The Romans were highly skilled in infrastructure, something that we still hear about today. Great question. And I talked about Sparta and Athens earlier. Next question comes from Miles. Yeah. What is the purpose of Spanish colonization? Great question. The Spanish were in to make money, basically. They weren't into setting up big colonies and shipping a bunch of people over from Spain into the colonies. Really, the only group of people that do that are the English, and you're going to find out more about that in in U.S. history next year. The Spanish wanted to look upon their colonies as commercial enterprises and also a way to spread the Catholic faith, kind of tied into the Reformation and the Catholic Counter-Reformation. So they would spread colonies, they would make money as a result of these, and they would also, I talked about the birth order in families. If you weren't son number 1 or 2, you were 3, 4, what have you, you would want to make a name for yourselves, and going to the New World would be a good way to do that. And of course, gold, and that's associated with riches and so forth. So they put it as God, glory, and gold, and sometimes you kind of shift those around, but usually gold's pretty up towards the top there. Okay? Great question, Ubaldo. The next series of questions come from Angel. Angel, what are some uncommonly known plays written by Shakespeare? I'm going to have to get back to you on that. I've read a lot of them when I was in school. The Tempest. My favorite play, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you my favorite Shakespeare play. It's not Macbeth. It's not Othello. It's not Romeo and Juliet. I always liked The Tempest. The Tempest, to me, had some humor into it. Midsummer's Night Dream isn't bad. But I go with The Tempest. I like The Tempest. I think that's the last play Shakespeare wrote, too. How many words did Shakespeare bring into the English language? Got me. He brought in a lot of sayings, as I said earlier. And did Shakespeare and Leonardo have any equals? That's a good question. Like when you compare historical figures, that's a tough one. I don't think it's like apples and oranges. These guys were incredibly skilled. I mean, we're still talking about them, and they've been dead for hundreds of years. And so maybe they did, maybe they don't. It's all in the eye of the beholder on that one. Good question, though. Okay, Viviana again. Always with the questions. I love it. How did the Protestant Reformation affect Europe as a whole? Well, probably the huge one was that it split. Europe was no longer an area, a geographic area that had only one religion. It led to a lot of wars. The 30 Years' War was a direct result of the Protestant Reformation. It led to capitalism developing. It led to separation of church and state. That in turn affects England, which in turn affects the United States at a later point in time. So it's a massive effect on Europe. And Europe comes into a position of being a dominant power around the world. And as a result, it affects the rest of the world too. So good question. According to Machiavelli, how should princes rule? Another great question. Machiavelli, I think he has people have a misconception of him saying that, he's just a ruthless guy and, it's all about being ruthless. Now, he did say it's better to be feared than loved. But Machiavelli was a pragmatic guy. He was looking for the best, most efficient way to do things. And Machiavelli always believed that if you had something that was working, you wouldn't get rid of it because it was working. And if you're being nice to your people, if you're a ruler and you're being nice to your people and that's working, then you don't change that. If you are a ruler and you're being kind of harsh with your people, but that's working, you don't mess with that. So you just leave it the way it is. He was all about efficiency, and if something's working, you don't get rid of it. And you modify it. If something isn't working, you change it so it does in fact work. Great question. What coincided with the fall of the Roman Empire? I kind of talked about that earlier. It would be the rise of the Byzantine Empire or the Roman Republic East Empire, not Republic, Empire East, and also the rise of Christianity too. That would be coinciding with the fall of the Roman Empire. Okay, next question is from Annalicia. Yes. It's about the counter Catholic Reformation. I think I went over that, pretty good. Martine, yes. What? Oh, you had this quote. I remember you talking about this in class. It says, somebody said, why is fear our main protection and how does that work? Well, fear is a powerful motivator. I'm not specifically sure which civilization you were talking about. I'll tell you what, I'll drop this thing onto the Assyrians. We're going back to the ancient. Unit 1. The Assyrians used fear as a protection because they could use fear to get people to do what they wanted. Remember, the Assyrians were the people that they ruled by terror. And what they would do is one of their first conquests, they'd go into a place and they would kill every man, woman, and child. No exceptions. They kill them all. Didn't take any... cart them off to slavery or anything. They kill them all. And then brutally, they would put a stack of heads in one place, a stack of arms one place, a stack of torsos in another place, and a stack of legs in another place. And they did that on purpose. And then they devastated the place so there was nothing left standing. They would leave. So anybody that came onto the scene after the Assyrian army had left, they would see this and they'd be like, oh my gosh, what happened here? What's going on here? Word would get around that the Assyrians had done this, and that's all they needed because it saved them time with their army. Because once, if you were in a city-state back then, because remember, they're all city-states, and you heard about the Assyrians doing this, and you heard the Assyrians were coming, you'd be like, oh, we got to get all our money together. We got to give them all the money we can give them because we don't want that to happen to us. And that's what they did. So that really played into the Assyrians' hands, and it was really efficient for them to do that. They were brutal. Eventually, they get enough people pissed off around them that people are like, Syrians, let's get together here and deal with those guys. But a great question, Martin. And those are the questions I shout out to all of you. Yeah! See, even they shout out for you. So those are great questions. That is going to be the last video review. I love the questions. I really appreciate them. Good job, guys. One last word about the final. You can do it. You can definitely do it. Look at these videos a couple times, and you will not draw a blank in the final. No blanks.